Hello, everyone, and I extend a very warm welcome to today's exclusive podcast session on building stronger developer communities to drive open source innovation in a distributed world. I'm your host, Khushi, and I'm delighted to have you with us today. In today's world, developers are not just solving technical challenges, they are shaping the culture of collaboration, knowledge sharing, and innovation that drives open source forward. As teams become increasingly distributed across geographies and time zones, building strong and inclusive developer communities has never been more important. So, in this conversation, we will learn what it really takes to nurture global developer ecosystems, how open source is fueling enterprise innovation, and the role of collaboration tools, culture, and community driven learning in this journey. We will also explore the challenges of sustaining engagement in distributed environments and the opportunities that arise when developers come together with a shared purpose. Our expert guest will bring invaluable insights, practical strategies, and inspiring stories on how developer communities can thrive and continue to accelerate open source innovation. So let's kick off this exciting conversation and discover how stronger collaboration today is setting the foundation for a more connected, innovative, and open tech world of tomorrow. So without further delay, I would like to welcome our esteemed speaker for today's session. To facilitate the session, folks, please join me in welcoming Mr. Karan M V, who is currently serving as the International Developer Relations Director at GitHub. He is working with developers across enterprises, startups, nonprofits, academia, and the open source community. At the intersection of AI and open source, he helps accelerate software development with GitHub at the core of modern workflows. He represents GitHub's developer and ecosystem strategy in India, shaping engagement with one of the world's fastest growing developer communities. He has also featured in keynotes alongside Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella and GitHub CEO Thomas Dohmke, showcasing how AI and open source are transforming software development. A hands-on coder, he combines technical depth, ecosystem experience, and business insight. His passion lies in the convergence of AI and open source and how it's shaping the next generation of developers. It's such a pleasure having you, Karan, here with me today.
Thank you, Kushi, for having me.
So now, without further ado, I would like to get started. To begin with, as you see that we would like to talk about how developers are collaborating in today's distributed world. So Karan, as you see that in today's distributed work culture, what do you feel are the biggest shifts in how developers collaborate across geographies and time zones?
The work that many of the developers do by some of the very nature itself is something which can be very well done through collaboration, right? So take an example of some of the early roots of how this started in, say, open source itself. A few decades ago, where Linus Torvalds actually started building Linux and then sharing whatever was being done with the rest of the community, initially through email lists and things like that, having contributions from others, making it a lot more better. And this was happening across the world, right? Where Linus was in Finland, but there were many others elsewhere as well, right? So if you look at it in the very initial days, right from the very initial days, the open source community has been built around this way of collaborating itself without being in one physical place. That's actually very much the ethos of how open source works. So if you think about it, right, that's one of the lessons that we can actually pick off from how open source works today, is that if you can effectively communicate without having to go to the person on the other side of the office and tap their shoulder, if you can effectively collaborate in an asynchronous manner and also contribute, right, you can actually be productive really anywhere. So I don't think these days, especially for many of the developers, it's not really physical spaces or offices which are defining how teams are formed. It's actually based on the work that you do, the tools that you use, and how you collaborate as well, right? And I think because of this, many of them today are realizing the importance of really good developer tools for collaboration. And anecdotally, that's one of the reasons why GitHub started as a platform, was to bring all of these developers who are initially working in open source on a common platform to collaborate itself, right? So what's happening again is that um, communication becomes a key, just like how I mentioned, right? Where you would have to figure out and also get the right way to communicate with your peers, with your developers, etc., across geographies and time zones, irrespective of what language they speak, what context they have, or what time zone they are in, how they understand things, etc., right? And that's also true in today's era of AI, where communication becomes important in terms of how you are prompting, how you're communicating with AI, etc. Right. So that's also one of the reason why many of the organizations are also investing in a whole lot of these developer tools that enable collaboration.
Right, Karan, and absolutely, you portrayed this very beautifully. That how from when we mention about how open source is evolving, the key elements that actually matter to us should be definitely framed very constantly now. And with this, I would like to move forward with the next question. That is, with remote and hybrid setups becoming the norm, how do you feel that organizations should ensure developer teams to stay productive and innovative without losing that human connection that is there?
You see, when I say this, I think many of the developers would agree with me, is that um, technology is a passion for many of the developers, whatever be the stack that they are working on. All right. It's something that everyone is innately passionate about, right? uh, However, it's also one of the human aspects that really makes people want to work with others, including developers, right? So while technology on one hand is the passion that you want to build, what really makes a developer say that, okay, I'm going to work in this organization or this organization, etc., outside of the technology, is the people, right? So the human aspect becomes really very important. And that's where a lot of the freedom that developers need becomes important, right? So I would like to kind of put it in this way. Now, if you're thinking of just in terms of innovation and productivity, etc., right?
Right.
Innovation really comes with culture, because once when developers have that space to really think about how they want to solve that problem, and that freedom to experiment and then see how to solve for it, that's where innovation really blooms. And if you think about productivity, a key aspect for that is also in terms of trust and tools. If a developer is given the right tools to be productive, and also the trusts that uh, they will actually help progress software and whatever is they're working on, right? That's where a whole lot of developers kind of find it easier to operate in, and kind of learn from other, etc., as well, right? So I think if you look at it, if you take any specific project that an organization might be working on, whether they are working on a product for a customer, or they're working on a service or anything else, right? If it's something which has really good alignment across the board, right from developers to the management, etc., it is easier to kind of fan that out to other different developers and folks as well, right? And what really helps organization balance some of these things is also having kind of real clear context and goals. What are you trying to accomplish? And what are you trying to build, etc. But the main thing is also across, coming back to what I said initially, the balance between the collaboration infrastructure, and also kind of having that human connects, right? If you don't have that basic infrastructure for developers to collaborate, and if you think about collaboration without, say, platforms or tools like GitHub, where, okay, here I have a code, I'm just gonna zip it and share it over email or something of that sort. That's not efficient collaboration, right? So that's where the tools become important to reduce that friction, so that many of the organizations and the teams can focus on the actual need, and making all of that async work very, very natural, and kind of also like a like second hand, right? That they are aware of, and also having a lot of that human connection in a very intentional manner. So it's not just about, okay, here is a space where you can gather, but how do you bring in all of that collaboration and communication in a way that is also natural to people, right? Think about how we as people really collaborate and communicate, right? We of course talk to friends, over phone messages, etc., but we also often meet up, because that's where the human connection comes in, right? So that's where a lot of that human connection aspect comes in, and doing that balance. And I think this is something that we at GitHub also strongly believe in, and we've kind of embraced this model for ourselves as well, where we also kind of operate in a way which is very similar to how an open source project also operates today, where many of our employees at GitHub collaborate across time zones, cultures, continents, across projects, etc. So what we've learned is that really, um, innovation, productivity, and the human connection doesn't really require everyone to be in the same room, but it does require being thoughtful about ensuring there is human connection, ensuring there is space for innovation, ensuring there is tools and trust for productivity, etc. So I think kind of summarizing a bit of this long answer is that organizations can really help drive this innovation, productivity, and balance this by learning from how open source has been operating since many years. So it's about ensuring that you're kind of aligned with your purpose, you have the right tools, and also nurturing the connections.
Yes. And absolutely, the right balance of all these factors will make the cut, because that's how we, as moving forward, we will know that these things have to be modified according to the current scenario of our tech world. So, moving forward, I would like to now ask you about the open source and its role in driving enterprise innovation. As you see that open source has become central to enterprise tech strategies. So, in your view, what role does it play in accelerating innovation at scale?
So it's one of the things um, which has also actually helped enterprises accelerate a lot. All right, there's a few reasons why. So if you think about any traditional ways how enterprises build software, either as their own products or services, a lot of it is something which used to happen in-house or through partners many years ago, where everything was being built from scratch because of various different reasons, be it differentiation, be it confidentiality and IP rights or anything of that sort, right? Whereas when a whole lot of enterprises started seeing that using and adopting open source unlocks a lot of value for them, that's where it actually started helping them in various different ways. For example, a lot of the enterprises don't have to today rebuild what's already there in the open source, as long as the kind of licenses and the rights of the open source projects are respected in what enterprises intend to use it for. Then there is huge amount of value add that provides by adopting open source across various different use cases, be it internal or external, etc. That's one thing. If you think about delivering products or services, if you think on from the other angle, right, enterprises contributing back to the open source ecosystem through the knowledge and through the technology that they have, and through also the human capital that they have, the knowledge that developers possess, and giving that back to the open source ecosystem actually creates a lot more value in the ecosystem as well, right? So you think about it, it's a very symbiotic relation, where you kind of get the benefits of using open source, but also contribute back the key strengths that you have, thereby improving the whole ecosystem itself. And what this symbiotic relation and the loop does is, for an enterprise business, it actually translates to their business goals through things like faster time to market or leaner costs, and more innovation, etc. And if you think about what it means for open source itself, it actually means that there is a lot more shared knowledge, shared resources, and faster improvement cycles and incremental cycles that are happening to projects. So it's an amazing win-win that happens for various different stakeholders here as well. Be it you're a developer sitting in an enterprise, or you're a contributor working on this project, or you're a maintainer of this open source project itself, who saw that there is some amazing learnings, etc. Right? So this is not at all a zero sum game where everyone wins by using open source and also contributing back.
Yes. And as you just mentioned about the win-win situation, now I would like to ask that as you see that many enterprises, they still hesitate to adopt open source due to the security and governance concerns. So how do you see these challenges being addressed?
There are a few ways. First of all, enterprises can really look at various different organizations who are not just adopting open source but also contributing back and seeing how they are benefiting. All right, that's one thing. The second thing is, speaking about security, open source is much more secure in nature itself because of how open source works, because it's something which is out over there, which is auditable by anyone. And generally a whole lot of this software is something which is known to be secure. All right, think about it this way, that say there is one open source software, all right, and there are millions and millions of projects that depend on it, all right, either at directly or indirectly, etc. And we've seen all of that across, right? And that's where security becomes important, not just for someone who is using that nth level software that's dependent on this, but even for that main open source maintainer who is building that or supporting it itself, right? So that's one of the reason why, as an ecosystem and a software, open source by nature becomes a whole lot more secure with participation of various different entities, and including folks like us at GitHub, where through our platform itself we offer various different security tools for open source projects, maintainers, developers, contributors, etc., to ensure that their security needs are being met. Speaking about the governance part itself, I think there are various different structures and ways how these can be addressed, and one a really popular way is by establishing something called as the Open Source Programs Office. All right. Now, this is something which exists in various different organizations where it's a it's a function residing somewhere in the CTO office or an innovation office, etc., who really look at a lot about how do you manage open source, not just internally, but also how do you contribute back, etc. So there have been very successful OSPOs, that is the open source program offices, across various different organizations as well. And in fact, even we at GitHub have an OSPO, and then we share a whole lot of the learnings as well, externally and publicly, on how best you can address the governance needs. How do we do some of that as well, etc. Right? So there are various different ways that you can address this, but one thing that I would also like to call out is that increasingly it's also become much more of a no-brainer that someone has to use open source and contribute back. In fact, we've even seen a whole lot of different government organizations, authorities, and agencies across the world adopting and shipping open source software as well. And this is benefiting not just the end citizens for whom these governments and agencies are delivering services, but it is also benefiting other enterprises, organizations, and developers working in the same problem space as well, right? So I think a lot of them are already addressing some of these concerns, and seeing that they're not really concerns at all, because it's something which is innately present in the way open source operates, like security, or something that can be addressed by establishing certain structures or ways of how this operates in an organization.
Yes, and definitely addressing these ways is becomes the most important part of how we see open source evolving, and definitely, always committing to all of the needs that we face in this tech industry. So moving forward, I would like you to, if you could share some inspiring examples where open source has helped solve complex enterprise problems, or maybe it has unlocked some new opportunities.
Yeah, sure. I think I'll probably take that a notch up, and then share about an example which has not just helped an enterprise, but is helping people as well. And this is a favorite example of mine that I like to share, is about this group of people, or an open source organization called the Open Healthcare Network. And what Open Healthcare Network does is it um, builds and supports software to address healthcare needs in remote regions of a country. Currently, it's, I think, supporting close to 200 plus hospitals, and helping impact the lives of lakhs of people. All right. So what essentially, and we've done a video story about them as well, and published it, etc. But essentially what folks like Open Healthcare Network are doing is that they are bringing in multiple aspects. One, their own experience of the problem, of ensuring that healthcare is something which is accessible and easily available, bringing in their skills of developing software, bringing in the power of open source by having contributions and contributors from across the country, right from students to professionals, etc., bringing together the power of platforms like GitHub, which helps collaborate, and also bringing the power of AI tools like, say, GitHub Copilot, which is all of this package helping deliver solutions which not just is impacting a certain business or an organization, but someone who is, say, sitting in one remote part of a country and is not able to get um, you know expertise needed for their health concerns through the software they're building and the enablement they are doing. It is actually helping so many lakhs of patients. And I think this is a beautiful example of what really is possible if you apply your skills, if you use the right tools, if you bring in and work with the open source community and also build for the society, right? I think this is an example which which is something that a whole lot of projects can look up to as well, in terms of this blend of various different aspects coming together.
Rightly mentioned, Karan. So that brings us to our final theme today, that is building and nurturing global developer communities. So, in your opinion, what makes the developer community truly thrive beyond just numbers and activity?
Yeah. So you see, if you look at any developer community, right? I kind of go back to one thing, that the community is not really defined by how big it is or where it is or what it is doing, etc. I think it truly thrives based on one, collaboration, all right, and two, communication. And I keep coming back to that. I'll explain you why. Is, if you think about it, and if you go talk to any developer, and you ask them saying that which is kind of one community or this community where you thought you got a lot of value, high probability is that they will say that this one community really helped me because I met someone, I learned from someone, I learned this, or I shared some of this inputs which were helpful for someone, right? So you
Right.
think about what behavior they're describing. The behavior they're describing is that of communication and collaboration, right? So, I think at the fundamental aspect, if you are looking at communities which are which developers build themselves or an organization does or someone else does, etc., it really thrives when there is that collaboration where the people and the developers are coming together to exchange ideas or to discuss shared problems or to share their experiences on solving those problems, etc. So that is where a whole lot of kind of innovation also happens, and a whole lot of those shared experiences also come into picture. So enabling that in a developer community to ensure that there is that shared space for collaboration and communication is what really would make that community really, really thrive.
Yes, and that's the way moving forward, definitely. So, looking ahead, how do you see the global developer communities evolving, and what role will they play in shaping the future of tech innovation?
So I think developers will play a really, really big role, which they already are, but an even bigger role when it comes to innovation in tech. Uh, Everyone, of course, is now experiencing the era of AI, and up until recently, it was a lot around generative AI, and we are now kind of stepping into the era of agentic AI,
Yes.
where developers are able to work with AI agents to help them accomplish their task, help them get things done, help them move a lot more faster as well, etc. So that will be a really, really key way how developers will be working when it comes to software development or product development, etc. And it will become more and more integral to how anything gets built in the future. So we're kind of already seeing this is developers really use agentic workflows, etc., to complete a lot of complex tasks really in a fraction of a time than what they would normally take otherwise as well, etc. So what's going to be important, and what will soon start happening, is that developers will just start moving further up the tech stack and working at higher abstraction levels of problem solving. So where they'll be working as almost like an orchestrator of many of these agents to accomplish the task. And that's where it's going to be almost an increasing demand for developers as well, and also um, an increasing collaboration and communication between developers as well, and in communities, etc. Especially, of course, in open source. So I think there is a lot of potential, because if you think about how much time, resources, and effort by using something like AI and agentic AI and open source that will unlock for developers, which will really help them start solving for the various different problems that they've always had in the mind, right? So it could be something which is around in the society, which you see every day, or it could be something which you are very, very ambitious about, on how do you solve for this. Those are really the kind of tasks that developers can start working on, because they are being more productive when it comes to collaborating, communicating, using AI, using open source, contributing back to open source, etc. So I think we are especially here in India, I think there's a lot of potential that developers can accomplish, with more than 19 million of them here in India. It's just amazing what can be accomplished.
Rightly mentioned, Karan. And now that we have taken the the inputs and the in-depth part about how we can drive an open source innovation in a distributed world, I would like to switch to some few quick questions that I'd like to ask, and you just have to answer in one word. So these are some fun quick questions which I would like to ask to take a quick overview on the subject.
Okay.
Okay. So firstly, I would like to ask that open source or paid tools, what's your quick pick?
Mix of both.
Okay. Moving forward to the next one, remote brainstorms or in-person hackathons, which sparks more ideas?
Remote brainstorms followed by in-person hackathons.
Rightly mentioned. Great. So moving forward, if open source were a superhero, what would its superpower be?
Oh, if open source were a superhero, what would its superpower be? This is a tough one.
Pretty much about the superheroes that we follow.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's about having a lot of followers.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, so next one is one open source project that every enterprise should learn from.
Um, One open source project that every enterprise should learn from. It's very tough, I would say, and it would be unfair to a whole lot of the other open source projects.
That's right. You can be, preferable here.
No, I'm being honest. There are amazing multiple ones which are there. Picking
Yes.
out one is very difficult.
Okay, so then mix of a few of them which you'd like
I
to
mean,
make.
it's also dependent on what you're trying to learn, right? If
Yeah.
you're trying to learn, if you're trying to learn physics, can I recommend you to learn about biology? So it's kind of like that.
Right. Got it. So the next one is that the biggest myth that you feel about developer communities in one line.
Um, Biggest myth about developer communities,
Yeah.
which is a myth, right?
Yes.
Um, Biggest myth about developer communities, I think.
Maybe something about AI or...
No, to be honest, I don't, um, I think the biggest myth about, if not maybe just with communities, I would say that the biggest myth is that only expert developers can create software or something like that. Because what's really happening right now is that I like to call it as ABCD, which is anybody can develop. So the biggest myth I would say is that you have to be a developer to create software. I don't think so.
Yes, absolutely right. So the next one would be that code or coffee, what really keeps the communities alive,
Um,
in your opinion?
it's both. It's very, very honestly both, because developers love coffee,
Yeah,
including myself. And because they're developers, they love code as well.
cool as well.
One fuels the other.
Other one, definitely agreed. Okay, so this is the last one, that if you had to pick faster innovation or stronger trust in communities?
Faster innovation or stronger trust?
Trust. Yeah.
Um, I would say stronger trust, because it is the basis of everything else. When you have that trust, innovation definitely will happen.
Yes, definitely. And this is how things, fueling all of the things that we are actually, mentioning and considering to move forward and drive the open source innovation moving
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
Great. So greatly answered. And definitely we've had some amazing insights and some also some amazing expertise from your personal insights that we have gained in today's session. And of course, now as we move towards the end, I would like to ask you that what do you feel about the Leader Circle program here at TechGig, and what are your views on this initiative?
I think it's definitely a really good initiative that TechGig has brought out, and I really appreciate all of the team behind it for working on it and talking to various different leaders, gathering insights, sharing it with the rest of the community, etc. So it's something which is going to be really really useful for not just developers but also, of course, many other people in the ecosystem and the leaders and others themselves as well. So really appreciate TechGig for coming out with this initiative.
That's great to know, Karan, from you, because of course it's encouraging to hear that it's also helping the industry leaders and developers come together.
Absolutely.
So, with that, we wrap up this truly insightful podcast session on building stronger developer communities to drive open source innovation in a distributed world. And we hope this conversation offers valuable perspectives on how open source, collaboration, communication, and distributed teamwork are shaping the future of innovation. A heartfelt thank you to you, Karan, for sharing such practical insights, some inspiring experiences, and also very much forward looking perspectives.
Thank you so much, Kushi. And I just kind of want to leave with one thing, is that I think the one thing which I also said previously is that I think it's with the era of agentic AI and what you can do, also, and the learnings from open source. I think the potential to accomplish and solve various different problems and accomplish solutions is really really huge.
Yes. And your thoughts have really given us a deeper understanding of how developer communities thrive, how open source fuels enterprise innovation, and what it takes to build stronger ecosystems in today's distributed world. So it was a pleasure having you with us. And thank you once again for being a part of this engaging and thought provoking session, Karan.
Thank you so much, Kushi, and thanks to TechGig Leaders Circle as well.
So, this is your host, Kushi, and it was an absolute pleasure hosting this podcast session. Thank you for tuning in and have a great day ahead. Stay tuned for more such conversations from TechGig. Until next time, take care and keep innovating.